valued viewers. I hope you are all doing very well. Just a quick thought from me. In my last video, there was a comment, just one, that suggested that I read all my information from Wikipedia, you know, like some other website or some other channel did. And that's just not the case. As you can see in the photo above, I have a pretty decent library just on steam locomotives by themselves. I invested probably close to $1,000, maybe up to $1,200 in those books over the last 15 to 20 years. Where I lack is practical experience. I have no railroad experience as far as working for a railroad or volunteer for one of the friends projects, you know, or over in Portland in my case to work on the daylight or anything like that. And that's what makes the comment section so beautiful here, is a lot of you do have practical experience, and that shows up in the comments and really makes the overall participation of my videos enjoyable. And so I just wanted to put that out there, that I'm just not some schmuck that's reading off of Wikipedia or something like that. Now, I do use about 3 or 4 online sources, and Wikipedia is one of them, but nothing is absolutely verbatim. And sometimes I do have to lean on Wiki a little bit more than what I would like to, because one of my books doesn't cover a subject well enough. But that's maybe 1 out of maybe every 5 or 6, 7 videos. But yeah, I do have some real knowledge. It's just book smart knowledge. It's not practical knowledge. So I just wanted to put that out there. Thank you. Okay, so what exactly is a railroad torpedo? So if you're someone like me and was in the Navy for a while, the first thing you think of is the classic naval torpedo that goes through the water at some 30 to 35 knots, you know, and it's going to blast a hole into a ship. Well, that's not the case with a railroad. It's something completely different, and they just happen to use the same name. Now, here in the United States, I'm not sure why we called these devices torpedoes, where the English, where these type of devices were invented, simply called it a detonator, which to me is much more appropriate for what it actually is. I suppose they called it torpedo because in the Civil War, the Confederates used a type of stationary torpedo or naval mine, more like, against Union warships, and I'm assuming that's where this device took its name of torpedo here in the United States. Okay, so as I mentioned, the railroad torpedo was invented by an English inventor named Edward Alfred Cowper, and that was in 1841. It was composed of several of the ingredients into regular dynamite, but not the exact same components, but the ingredients did degrade over a longer time frame like dynamite does, and it became unstable. And that's a design fact that lasted throughout the years until the discontinuing of the use of detonators or torpedoes here in the United States. So what exactly is a railroad torpedo? Well, it's a safety device that was usually found in the caboose in a box back in the days of steam, and they were deployed by flagmen, which was a member of the train's crew, if some kind of trouble had happened to the train to where the train had to stop or something like that. So the flagman would get out of the caboose and deploy his detonators or torpedoes onto the track, usually up to 1 mile or 2 miles away from the locomotive. So when an oncoming train ran over these detonators, they set the charges off within the detonator itself, and the oncoming locomotive's engineer, you know, obviously can hear this because it's pretty loud, and that tells him to slow his locomotive down or his train down to 20 miles an hour or less, which puts him in a position to stop his train in short order if he needed to. So the U.S. version of these torpedoes were about 2 by 2 in size, and were about 3/4 of an inch thick. and they had two lead straps attached to either end of it, which fastened the torpedo down onto the rail itself. So when the oncoming locomotive could run over it, and the vibration from that train would knock them off or anything like that. So they used these lead straps to secure the torpedo onto the rail itself. So fast forward a bit to today's world, railroads simply don't use these torpedoes any longer, simply because the two-way radio has made the track torpedo nearly obsolete. Also, safety concerns over carrying some kind of dynamite on a train and injury to pedestrians has prompted many railroads to figuratively send the torpedoes to scrap with the cabooses. And as many of us know, a steam locomotive by itself can be a pretty potent bomb with these boiler explosions and whatnot. So I can't say that I wouldn't blame them for not wanting to carry these explosive torpedoes on their train. You know, that's just one more safety hazard to look after, which was already a difficult task at times, as it were. So a few other devices or tools in the safety kit found in these cabooses back in the day was a device known as a fusee, which while not as violent as a track torpedo, the fusee carries its own kind of danger, especially when it's used around combustible or explosive loads. They're pretty much a handheld flare, or a flare that could be held by hand, but they burn really hot and they spark really hot, and they can actually put burn holes in your clothes and whatnot. So generally it's something that you want to lay down, specifically at night, mostly, to warn an oncoming train that there's trouble with the train up ahead, to once again signal the oncoming locomotive engineer to slow down to that 20 miles an hour, and then stop if he has to in short order. Most railroads required that a fusee be attended and included special instructions in their timetables or rule books to deal with unintended fusees. This had to do with stopping a fusee. Since they carried their own oxygen supply, you couldn't just simply step on them like a cigarette to put them out. They just simply had to burn until they ran out of oxygen. Which you don't have to be Einstein to realize that you could actually start a major brush fire or something like that as well if you just left them unattended while they were burning. This safety kit also had a red signal flag where a signalman can take it, you know, walk behind the train for a distance and use the flag during daylight, and visibility was good, to flag a locomotive, oncoming locomotive, and let the engineer know once again to slow down and or potentially stop. And lastly, most trains carry derailers, which is a device that you can put on the track that would intentionally derail a train or a specific car if you had to do it that way. And that's just simply a last-ditch attempt to stop a train from causing a much more serious accident. You wouldn't want to deploy these unless you had darn good reason to. Okay, so that is exactly what a railroad torpedo is and how you deploy them. So if you like today's content, hit the subscribe button or the like button and turn on all of your notifications. And to help support the channel, please visit our print shop at Nickel Plate Limited on Etsy.com. Thank you once again.